Hey guys, it's Malthor here once again, and guess who's back on their Ice Nova Assassin, leveling a little bit more because, well, the other character met an untimely end, really put the dead in Deadeye, and I'll go over that clip in just a second. So for this video, I just wanted to go over the Assassin sort of race a little bit, and my Ice Nova character, just the final touches, since I did get a couple of upgrades in the meantime while playing the Deadeye. Just show a few clips of some fat Vaal Ice Novas, and overall just show you how I died, why I died, and well, I don't know, maybe how you can prevent that exact same situation happening. You can't. So let's start with the death of the Molten Strike Deadeye. I got to level 93 and it was doing fine. Most content was alright, everything was looking pretty good. I did enter one or two semi-dangerous maps, and this would be it. It was a Shaped Dwarf tier 15 that had minus max and added cold damage. So, you know, it's not the worst in the world, but it certainly does add up. And I also had Beyond and a few other nasty bits from Flashback. And basically what ends up happening here is this Flame Blast boss. His Flame Blasts are nowhere near the most dangerous thing he does. It is in fact that Molten Strike that he does. So if you go back and watch the clip, what happens is he occasionally drops a Molten Strike, and if all those projectiles that come from the Molten Strike hit you at once, they do overlap and they do hit you like a fucking truck. So if you go back and watch, you'll see that my Herald of Purity little dude gets hit by the Molten Strike, and I am trying to dive through the guy at the time because I'm well aware that he can one-shot me and I don't want to be anywhere near him. And well, I think I get jammed on a little post off to the side and it kind of just gets me killed immediately. So you can see that Herald of Purity dude baiting an attack, boom, straight in there, dead, one-shot. It's somewhat of a common one-shot or death in hardcore leagues. It does happen quite a lot. I'm well aware that this guy is super dangerous and I was trying my best to outplay him at the time, but I still obviously fucked up a bit and died. These types of deaths are never that satisfying. You don't really want to die in one hit that quickly. You want to die to your own mistake, kinda, and just learn from it. Whereas this, the only thing I can really learn is either don't roll that map or just walk away from certain fights. And for me, that's personally quite boring. I definitely try and do everything I encounter. I've killed many Abaxoths this league, probably something like 10 of them at this point. A lot of the times it's pretty scary, pretty dangerous, but you dive straight back in anyway because it's a lot of fun to do. So that was the absolute end for our Deadeye, which ended up dying at level 93 over here. Right there, 93 Deadeye, kind of on the way to 94, and I definitely could have hit something like 96 should I stayed alive. Maybe got the demigods, but things were starting to get a bit sketchy as I was doing harder maps, and I was still pretty much melee, though I squeezed as much life out of that build as I could have. Over 6.5k with lots of life gain to hit some good defenses and all that, but ultimately there's still some pretty dangerous shit out there in the world of the melee. So that's a shame, but whatever. Current character is now the Assassin. I logged back onto him, who's at this point, level 97.5, pushing for 98, and hopefully I can secure a top 3 Demi. There are quite a lot of Virgin Winter Orbers chasing down the Demi at this point, as you can see, and it's pretty tough as the Chad Ice Nova to stay ahead with a much slower actual gameplay style of game. It's just a world of difference watching the Winter Orbers compared to my gameplay of what is essentially just a different fucking game. But I'm still alive, going for the 98, and if I get 98, that will be my highest level character ever, because currently 97 is my highest, and it's okay. We'll hopefully get 98. I think if I just chip away over the next few days, Ice Nova is still a lot of fun, I think, and I'm still enjoying it quite profusely. And basically, I do just want to show you real quick what kind of upgrades I've made, because I found a Carcass Jack, managed to 6-link it, found a Halcyon, managed to get the Blessing to turn it into a Pandemonious, and that means I had to rejig my gear and my sort of passives just a little bit to fit these things in, because I definitely wanted that extra area of effect and area damage. I think it's very well worth it. And then the blind from this thing, as well as the penetration against shield enemies, which is just going to be on always, is pretty damn strong when it comes to a lot of the resistant mobs out there. So you work with the gear that you're given, and ultimately I've managed to fine-tune this character to become quite an animal. It's got 5.9k life, 900 ES, which is up a lot of the time, and unreserved I believe I have about 1400 mana. And then as well as that, I'm almost capped on Chaos Res, would you believe it? Pretty much the first time that's ever happened. It's just my gear that's managed to kind of have a little bit of Chaos Res, but then if you fill out all of your Res everywhere else, you can roll these little Res and Chaos Res rolls across the board, kind of, and then ultimately you can just fill out your Chaos Res that way. So it's pretty good to have against a lot of things out there like Temple of Atsuado shit. Those little pot plants dudes do a lot of chaos damage. Plenty of other stuff does lots of chaos, and it's just nice quality of life, but usually I don't worry about it on my softcore characters. So what I ended up doing is respecking a good bit so I can fit in some more life nodes, these down here, because turning my current amulet and my chest into these two was a pretty big life loss, and I had to do it to be able to manage that. So I lost these nodes over here for area, because obviously I'm getting a bit more down here. And ultimately, I think my tree has something like 200% life at this point, while maintaining quite a lot of mana, and then just a little bit of damage out there. Power charge node I think I dropped as well, because even though I'm assassin, it's still not that good point for point, and I'd rather have just about everything else I can get, and the damage is still fairly huge with the stuff I've got. So just if you slowly chip away at your character while playing this one like I have for, well, shit, 3 days, 13 hours, you're bound to find some of this pretty much just like vanilla type gear. There's nothing you know, meta crafted, meta modded, multi-modded, that sort of stuff in my gear. It's just good normal shit that you will eventually come across if you play enough. So something like a Pandemonius is gonna happen for you one of these days. Same with a Carcass Jack, same with some pretty basic ones. This one's fairly insane for what it is, but yeah, just things like this are gonna happen if you keep playing and chipping away. And ultimately it's just a nicely well-rounded character. Now for my 6th link, I did end up adding increased area, because I just want even more area, more coverage. That makes things a bit safer and your damage a bit stronger for the overlap. And then I sub in something like crit strikes or conk effect on single target if I think that's necessary. All that's left to do after that is just then show a bit more clips. I did manage to get one T15 beachhead going, and when I popped it, I luckily got some Beyond action in it. I'm not sure I ever remember having Beyond with a beachhead comboed before, and it makes the last room pretty damn fun and interesting. I think I counted 9 or 10 Beyond bosses spawned throughout this encounter. Makes it a lot more fun, because otherwise these days we are definitely just a little too overpowered for this encounter compared to when it first came out. And Ice Nova just shreds this stuff very nicely and safely, and it does highlight something that's pretty well prevalent for this sort of skill and playstyle thus far in solo self-found hardcore, and it's that Ice Nova is as safe or dangerous as you want it to be. You can push it to the absolute limits and run around very fast and throw out frostbots all the time, Ice Novaing in the thick of things, or you can sit back and basically cast as a pure ranged, as pure as it's going to get, freezing things and being very defensive. So compared to the death of the Deadeye that I had, if I was playing Ice Nova at that time, I would have had to be nowhere near that boss and just snipe him off screen like I do just about every Beyond boss, including Abaxoth. But at the same time, I can also freeze shit and also have a huge emergency button in the form of Vaal Ice Nova. It is kind of an emergency button, but at the same time, I am just running around trying to find the biggest, fattest Vaal Ice Novas, which quite often puts me in danger. And that seems like a bit more of a softcore friendly Vaal skill if you use it offensively. As a defensive one, it's very good for hardcore, but offensively, you can just run around, get the biggest packs, put yourself in the most danger, and then press that Vaal E, and holy shit, do things just chain, explode, and feel like probably the best button to press in the game, I reckon, at least for my money these days. So Vile Ice Nova, it'd be a shame if it gets nerfed or anything, and if you haven't yet tried it, because it's definitely one of those buttons you really have to press and get the most out of it. I then did also do some of my delving. I'm now down to level 83 delves, probably one of the deepest on the ladder at the moment. I think the deepest is like 280, something like that, because it's not super worth going much deeper on the hardcore side of things. And I'm now at 240, 250, so slowly chipped away with my sulfite to manage to get to level 83 and below delves. And it's pretty safe as a Ice Nova playstyle. And then pretty much just at the end of every node, you try and get the biggest, fattest Vile Ice Nova happening, which is quite a lot of fun, as you can see here. And then, of course, I think lastly I'll mention that the entire sort of look of the build and the aesthetics do get changed quite dramatically depending on the Herald of Ice micro you choose to go with. In all of my videos, I think so far, I use Sin Herald of Ice because it seems to be the one that's least clashing with the Ice Nova and the environment, so that I can still kind of see things. A lot of the other Herald of Ices are pretty well, once you get a lot of Ice Novas going off and a lot of shatters, they can be very cluttered on the screen and a bit harder to see the enemies. But I also just like the exploding sort of cascading nature of Sin. And if you change it up to many of the other Herald of Ices, it feels like a completely different build altogether. So I'm going to chip away at the next few days and still try and get a little bit higher level. But otherwise, guys, hope you're excited for Legion news and all kinds of new stuff coming with that. Hopefully I'll have a couple videos going over those in the coming days. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the Legion hype train launch thing. Bye.